What Sabrina Ionescu said was no big deal, for real. Like, no big deal at all. You know, I think some people have been conditioned to find some sort of negative reaction to Caitlin Clark amongst other WNBA players because that's probably generated a lot of engagement and a lot of interaction and a lot of comments and the like. And of course, I've discussed what I thought was relevant. But when you actually look at what Sabrina Ionescu said, like, it wasn't perfectly stated when she said it was their Super Bowl. Like, that comes off a little condescending, but it's one of those ones where I think the written word is worse than the spoken word, because here's what Sabrina actually had to say.
We play Liberty basketball, but understanding like this is their Super Bowl game. I mean, we've beaten them 3 times this year already. We knew they were going to come into this game really hungry, and it's tough to beat a team 4 times. Like it's just tough in our league, especially with how every team has just grown, and especially this young team. You've been able to just see how much they've grown just throughout the first half of the season. So, I don't think it was necessarily us not playing our style of basketball. It's just understanding that we had to come in with a sense of urgency, knowing it's not going to be as easy as it was in the first couple games that we were able to go up against them because they've just grown.
So really, she was complimenting the Indiana Fever there. That was a compliment from Sabrina Ionescu to say, this team is so much better than they were when we first played them, right? Like, so much better. And that's true. That's true. Like, the use of the word Super Bowl could have been better. Okay, so what? Throw it in the garbage. People speak, And was she salty? Maybe. Everyone's salty generally after a loss. But there was nothing disrespectful about what Sabrina Ionescu said. In fact, I think it was more respectful than anything else. She's saying that they've reached a whole new level. And she's been complimentary of Caitlin Clark all year, by the way. When Caitlin struggled in that game against the Liberty, which I was at, by the way, at Barclays Center. I was there with my daughter. And I'll tell you the story of that game real quick. I purchased the tickets the day of, secondary market day of. They weren't crazy expensive. I wanted to take my daughter Ronnie to see Caitlin Clark in person, to see the Liberty, so she could, we live local, so she could become a Liberty fan and a Caitlin Clark fan. And that's what she is. She roots for the New York Liberty and the Indiana Fever as a result of Caitlin Clark. Now, I knew going into that game that the purchase was probably not going to lead to an impressive Caitlin Clark performance, because it was on the second of a back-to-back. The Fever had played the day before, and it was their 11th game in 20 days, which is just an absurd schedule. Like, and that goes to show you the way that Caitlin has been dissected and discussed, to the point where no one takes into consideration something like that. Like, they just go, she sucked in the game. And afterwards, Sabrina was saying it's no big deal to have a game like that. And Sabrina, is sort of in some ways the benchmark for Caitlin. They're not exactly the same, but they're both lead guards. They're both guards in the league who came in with a lot of hype. They're both deep three-point shooters. Obviously, I thought what Ionescu did against Steph Curry was an inspiring moment for, because little girls would watch that and go, oh, wow, she can go up against Steph. And little boys would watch that and go, oh, wow, she could go against Steph. I think that was an important moment in general. That was an inspiring moment, and in some ways a precursor to where we are now. And Sabrina, to me, is a terrific guard as a whole, like a combo guard. I almost think of her as, because she can be that point guard. She can be the shooting guard. She's got good size and all that. And she was, until Caitlin Clark, the youngest player to record a triple-double. She, is second to Caitlin Clark right now in total points, either scored or assisted on. And she hit that one deep three in the game. In fact, there was an exchange in that game between Clark and Sabrina. You can check out the article on it, Women's Fastbreak on SI. The link is in the description below. But here is the play itself, where it was early in the game, back-to-back threes, Clark and Sabrina. Cool moment. There's Caitlin. That step back, that is nasty. That's just different. That's the difference with Caitlin. The type of shot she's able to hit. Sabrina, they just give her too much space. She steps into it. And look, Sabrina can do that. Sabrina can really shoot the rock. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But I didn't think that Sabrina was taking shots when she said what she said about Caitlin Clark. That did not come across that way to me at all. In fact, I think this was after the Liberty smoked the Fever, the game I was talking about, the game that I was at, and it looked like they were the Globetrotters against the Fever. This is what Sabrina had to say. I think this was after that game. Regardless, you'll get the point.
As a basketball player, as a person, and so I'm not the least, bit worried about what she's going to be able to accomplish in the league. I just know she's going to continue to work really hard and stick with it, and good things will happen to good people.
So Sabrina is not someone who's been hating on Caitlin Clark, I think is the point. They have a relationship that I believe predates any of this. I've seen them in photos together. So the Super Bowl comment, to me, it was almost like people saw the text of it. And I get it. The text of it, when you see it, let me actually find the original tweet. When you see the text of it just sitting out there, it reads a lot rougher than it was spoken from her mouth. Like, you see that said, it's understanding that this is their Super Bowl game. We've beaten them 3 times already. That comes off very, very dismissive. It does. But when you actually hear the way she spoke it and the context within which she spoke it, it's really not that big a deal. Makes for a good headline. And I wasn't going to do the video on it, to be honest with you, until I saw ESPN. Let me see if it's still on their page. Yes, it is. So I was looking at stories this morning, and I go over to ESPN, and I go to the WNBA section, and there it is. Ionescu on loss to Fever. This is their Super Bowl game. So obviously, it's generated some hype and some attention. And obviously, there's been a bit of a habit of finding something a WNBA player says that may be considered a diss to Caitlin Clark to feed this narrative. But I think that's all done with. I think Diana Taurasi, giving the flowers. I think the Las Vegas Aces showing the love. Aaliyah Boston, the way her and Clark's relationship has blossomed. I think all those things have sort of deaded any of the negative discourse and discussion. And then there's the way that Caitlin Clark has played, which is also undeniable. So, it wasn't the Super Bowl of controversies, I would say, what Sabrina Ionescu had to say. And it was a big win for the Fever over the Liberty. I mean, that really can't be disputed, right?